Yes, that's where I want to record. Okay. And is it recording? Let me see. Okay, it says it's recording. And this is Janet Roper, animal communicator and educator, and it is Thursday, September 28th at 7:00 p.m. Mountain Time, and the year is 2017. And we're going to be talking tonight about beginning animal communication, what it is, why it is, and why I think it is so important, and talking about, how other people have experienced and how they think it's important too. And the picture that you see there is my angel horse, Shiloh. If you're on the call live or listening to this later, you've probably heard me talk about Shiloh. And we've been very close, very, very close ever since we came together. I want to say it was like 20 years ago or so. But he is now an angel horse, and he sometimes comes in on the calls and puts in his 2 cents. And what he had to say, and he said this when he was 17 years old, so he said this a while back, but tell people not to limp along with their animal communication skills. Now is the time for people to really learn to talk to animals and listen to us too. We have much to share. And it is true, the animals do have a lot to share. And that's a picture of me and Shiloh. And it really is, in my experience, we truly all do better when all creatures do better. And as from my perspective as an animal communicator, that means that not only helping humans, but helping the animals and all the species that we come in contact with. And a lot of time people will hear me say sentient beings instead of animals. And when I use that overarching term of sentient beings, what I'm referring to is not only the humans and the animals, regardless of what species they are, but also the plants, the grass, the wind, the flowers, the trees, the water, the ground. I'm just talking about everything when I say sentient species. But because tonight we're talking animal communication, it'll be animals that we'll mostly be talking about. So this one right here, where I say everyone is muted now, that's basically a lie, because nobody is muted now. And so if you have any questions, just feel free to pop in with that. And there is also a chat, and I think you can find that at the bottom of your screen, like an orange button or something. And if you chat a question in, I should be able to see it in the chat. And if not, just pop in and ask the question. I run these very informally. To me, when we get together and talk like this, it's like we're all sitting together at the Universal Coffee Shop, just enjoying each other's company, having our favorite beverage to drink, talking about animals. It's a really good thing. So to me, it is just really informal. And a little bit about myself. I'm an animal educator, an animal communicator, an educator, an author, an animal advocate, a blogger. I do have my Reiki 2 skills. I use those as a tool. I don't consider myself a practitioner per se of Reiki, but I do have those tools in my toolbox that I use when I'm working with the animals. And I'm also a student of the shamanic practice. And that is one tool that I will be using more and more. I am in a 2-year program. I am in the last half of the last year of the program. So as I end that program, it's going to be really interesting to see how that affects the work that I do with the animals and the people. And it's already started to affect the work that I do, but I think once that I'm officially finished, it's going to affect it even more. I've practiced animal communication officially for approximately 15 years, but it's something I've done all my life. And when I was a child, I was told, don't tell the neighbors you're talking to that squirrel, Janet. What will the neighbors think? Because, my parents wanted the best, and they wanted to fit in the neighborhood, and other kids didn't talk to squirrels, and who was I to say I was talking to a squirrel? So I squashed that down. And a little bit later, you're going to hear about how one of the dogs that I adopted helped to bring that back to the forefront and led me into what I do today. My focus in animal communication is working with right relationship. And I know that can be a very elusive term, because we all consider ourselves to be in right relationship with the animals. But to me, right relationship with the animals means that I am really connecting with them, and I'm seeing what's going on from their perspective. And then I'm putting that in relationship with, not power over. Don't do this because I'm the human. you know, but in relationship with, so that it's a win-win for everybody. And sometimes when we're in relationship with the animals, it's hard, it's tough, particularly in an example where somebody, let's say, takes in a dog that they want to adopt. And it just happens, and they think that they're going to keep that dog forever and ever and ever, you know, to death do us part, as most of us do who would be on this call would think that. And then it comes to find out that that dog is not meant to stay with them. The dog either runs away or something happens that stops that dog from being from them. And when I've had cases like that, I've checked in with the dog to see what's going on. The dog has always said, or the animal has always said, this was the route that I needed to follow. But sometimes when we humans, it can be really difficult for us to honor the role the animal has, that they have their own role, that they have their own things that they want to do in life and how they're going to get that accomplished. So when I say be in right relationship, what that means to me is understanding the animal, particularly when it's difficult and particularly when it's with something that we humans ourselves might not want for that animal. It's a deep subject, let me tell you. I also work with animals and their people who are in transition, in the process of transitioning. And I think that once my shamanic study is done, that's going to be actually one place I'm really going to focus on, is to do death walking with the animals, helping them cross over and helping the human work with that transition. And then one thing that I love about animal communication, we'll talk more about this later, is that, as I said, I love working with the relationship between the animal and the human. And I love seeing when the human goes, oh my gosh, I get it. I understand. And then they'll say something like, Janet, did you know that my dog understands what I'm saying? I'm going, yes, I understand. And yes, I'm so glad that you get that. There's a difference in animal communication from knowing it here and from experiencing it in the heart. And again, that goes back to the right relationship, me helping people from knowing here in the head to moving to the heart of being in that right relationship. I'm cheerfully and very carefully owned right now by one dog, Max. You might hear him barking because the cows are out on the hills and the mule deers have been out on the hills behind the house. And Max is, I think he's 12 years old, black lab pitting mix. He's an old guy, but he's a fun guy. And then my cat, Raven, who is, he's really coming in close connection and really helping me on my journey as I do with animal communication now. So you are in the right place tonight if you have a deep love and respect for animals, if you have a feeling that the animals are trying to connect with you, but you're not sure how to connect with them. You know, it's like when you're in the kitchen and your dog is sitting there at your feet looking up at you with those big soulful eyes, and you know they're telling you something and you're just going, gosh, what is it? You know, if only I understood. If you've had that experience, you're in the right place tonight. And if you've always wanted to communicate with animals, but you just didn't know where to start, you are in the right place tonight, because the field of animal communication, it's growing and growing and growing. And there's so many different ways that you can do it and so many different avenues and everything. What I like to think that I do in these workshops and on these calls is to give you a good basis of what animal communication is, a good start, a good foundation, so that you can take this information and then go in whatever direction you want. So if you've experienced any of that, you are in the right place tonight. You're going to hear how I got my start as an animal communicator, what I love about animal communication, and if anybody who is listening to this either live or afterwards has talked to me at any length, you know that I love talking about animal communication. You're going to find out the question I most asked when it comes to animal communication. You'll find out what animal communication is, what it is not, how it works, why it works. And then we're going to get you started doing a circle of quiet tonight and doing a little bit of practice with your animal too. Just a little bit, just to give you a taste of it. And then, of course, ways we can stay connected. So I invite you to take notes tonight, because at the end there's a surprise. And I don't care if your notes, if you're writing them down However it works for you to take notes is what works for me. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you're writing it down on a legal pad, if you're taking screenshots, if you've got an application open on your computer and you're taking notes that way, I don't care what the notes are. And also the notes don't have to be detailed. The notes could be as simple as, what is the one takeaway, one or two takeaways that I have from tonight's talk? So keep notes of some sort, as detailed as you want, and then you'll find out towards the end what that's about. And this gorgeous dog right here, this gorgeous little buff dog that you see on the screen, that's my angel dog, Teddy. And he is the one who brought me to animal communication. And the way Teddy and I got connected was, at the time when I adopted him, I taught music in my house, both violin, viola, and piano. And so I had students coming in, probably 40 students a week. I had 2 dogs, and one of my dogs died. And it just really struck me and the other dog really hard. And I knew that I needed another dog in the household, not to replace Squirty, but to add to the balance in the household, to make sure that the household was balanced. So I went to the Humane Society and I walked in, and there was this just scruffy little dog that was down on the floor. He probably weighed about 35 or 40 pounds. His little tummy was touching the floor. He was so overweight. He was dirty, his hair was long, and he had this big tail like a flag. Okay, just big fluffy tail. And at the end of that big fluffy tail, there was a little puppy that was attached. And this dog and that little puppy, they weren't back where the dogs were. They were there in the welcoming room, in the area where the people first walk in. And this dog, he had the biggest smile on his face. And the little puppy had him by the tail, and this dog was dragging the little puppy around like a game they were playing. And I walked in and I'm going, that's my dog. And at that time, I was not using consciously intuition. I mean, I used it as a musician in that sense of reading an audience, but I hadn't really thought about using it to connect with, animals. I hadn't used it to connect with humans. So, to think about talking to animals was just beyond my scope of reasoning at that point, my scope of knowledge. And so I asked all the right questions. And I'm telling the people there at the Humane Society what I was looking for, because I'd made a list. So I'm very good at keeping lists. What I was looking for, and that students coming in the house, and the dog had to be friendly, and there's another dog in the house, and there's 3 cats, yada, 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 yada. And so I asked the question, does he keep his kennel clean? And they said, yes, he does keep his kennel clean. I'm going, yes, that's my dog. So I said, okay, here's what I'd like to do. If you would hold him, I'll go back home, get my other dog. If they get along, then I'm going to take him home. He's mine. So I went home and got my other dog, Emmy, brought her back to the Humane Society. And with Emmy, and his name was Tundra at the time, it was love at first sight. They bonded 3 seconds, just like that. So I'm going, okay, taking him home. So I get Emmy in the car and get Tundra in the car and get him home and let them out and take him into the house. And the first thing he does is lift his leg and pee. And I'm going, okay, he's marking his territory. Okay, that makes sense. Well, it went from bad to worse to even worse to just, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? Because he marked the whole house. He peed, he pooped, wouldn't let me know when he wanted to go outside. I worked with a vet, I worked with a trainer, and it just didn't solve the problem. And actually when I worked with the vet, I was hoping, fingers crossed, that they would say, oh, Janet, something's wrong with him physically. Here's a pill, this will fix it. And they go, no, he's healthy. And so literally, because you can't make this stuff up, I'm sitting in front of the fireplace one day in Minnesota, getting ready to light the fire, crumbling up the paper, and I see this ad for Animal Communicator. Never heard of him before. Falls in my lap, face up. She's in my neck of the woods. I give her a call. Yeah, I can help you and your dog. So she comes out. I saw how she worked with Teddy. His name became Teddy. And it changed my life. And by the time that Teddy and I had gone through our lessons, so to speak, with the communicator, I was realizing that this was something that I had done, and I just didn't know it had a name. And that really struck me. But the thing that struck me the most was how working with the communicator made such a difference in Teddy. He was understood. Somebody was able to say what was going on with him, to tell me, so that I could take that information and help Teddy. And literally until his dying day, well, let me backtrack a second. I would say within 6 months, 9 months, something like that, I was able to redo the house. That meant taking out the flooring, getting new furniture because he peed and pooped all over, like I said. And it was horrible. And he basically kept the house clean till his dying day. Of course, as he got older, he had accidents. But on his dying day, his little body just gave out. And that was tough for both of us. But that's how I became an animal communicator. And one thing that I do want to say about Teddy is he is now an angel animal. And this Monday, October 2nd, is the 8-year anniversary of his death. And to memorialize him, I am putting up a GoFundMe account so that people can contribute, make donations if they want, to the victims of the Puerto Rico catastrophe that's going on down there. So if you're on the call, if you're listening to this later, you'll be getting an email with a link to the information on this call, and it will have the information if you would care to donate there in Teddy's name. So what I love about animal communication, I really need to change this and say what I don't like about animal communication. It would be much shorter. I love how animal communication deepens the bond between animals and humans. And since I started working with animals, one of the things that I started noticing that I'm doing is I'm changing my languaging. So you'll notice I rarely say between humans and animals. I'll say between animals and humans. I rarely use the word pets because to me, that's just, it's like slavery. I will use the term animal pal. I don't use the word owner because to me, that again is like I own this sentient being. They're not property, it's a sentient being. So part of what I love about animal communication is how it's challenged me to grow and to become more of who I am and to take off the blinders and really open up my understanding of what it's like when we truly relate with animals. I love, as I mentioned before, witnessing with whether it's my students or with clients, when they understand, when that light bulb goes off, that they understand that they can connect with the animals in a deeper, more profound way. And the dog is no longer just a dog, or the cat is no longer just a cat, or the horse is no longer just a horse. They become that sentient being and that relationship, heart-to-heart relationship, if you want to call it, even though I consider it more than that. That heart-to-heart relationship is created, I find, when we start connecting with the animals at this level. And I love it when all people realize that they can connect with animals. Not everybody wants to, but we all have the ability. Like I have the ability to do my taxes. I can do them. I've done them in the past. I truly prefer not doing it. And if I can afford to have somebody do them for me, I will do that. But I do have the ability. It's the same thing with animal communication. We can all connect, whether we want to or not. That's a different story. And again, I love witnessing what happens when people realize that the animals are not just, again, the dog or the cat or the pet or the whatever in the household, the bird, the snake, the rabbit, but they can be our guides and our teachers. We humans are we think so much of it's a one-way relationship that we're the human, so we're helping the animal. And yes, that's true. And it's equally as true that that animal is helping us. Again, it's like being in that right relationship where we meet together in win-win situations. And so and not all animals are teachers and guides, okay? You need your discernment hat on to do that. But to just go past the fact that in decades, centuries, eons, we've considered them just an animal. And now it's like there's the possibility that the animal with whom I share my home can actually guide and teach me. To me, that breaks barriers. So with animal communication, this I think is part 2 of why I like it so much, is you're getting the point of view directly from the animal themselves. Don't have to Google it. I don't have to read books. Yes, I could, maybe, should, maybe even call the vet. But when we're connected with that animal, we're seeing what's going on from their perspective and how we can help them from their perspective. And when we take all those lines of misunderstanding out or miscommunication, and we've got an open line of communication, there's so much to be learned. When they know that they can trust us and know that we are trying to help them the best that we can as we are practicing our own skills, intuitive skills, and connecting with them. You can learn about potential health issues before they become a problem. I will talk a little bit later how animal communication does not replace vet care. It complements it, but still in all, from the animal, you can learn what's going on. I was working with a horse a while back, a couple months ago, and the horse, prize-winning horse, a reiner, and this horse was having problems in the arena. And he had been ill, but the training would go really fine, except when it didn't. And there wasn't a direct correlation. The trainer and his person were not finding a direct correlation of why the training worked so well 99.99% of the time. And that remainder, it was just like, what's going on? What caused this? So when I talked to him, because of the illness he'd had and the medication he'd been on, he was telling me his brain was still scrambled. And that when that would happen, when everybody else was going, what the heck? It was like his brain, the connections weren't being made. Connections were not being made correctly. When I explained that to the trainer, who's an exquisite trainer, by the way, in Central Illinois, she was able to help the horse. She was able to help the rider. And then, of course, you know, because time has passed and his brain has had time to reconnect the correct way, things have gotten much better. But his person was at the point where she was thinking of selling him. And then the trainer said, call Janet. And I did. And everything, from what I know, is just hunky-dory afterwards, which is really nice. You can discover possible explanations for behaviors, what might or might not be going on. And you can ask them from their point of view. And again, it may not make sense to us, but from their point of view, it makes perfect sense. Again, crossing over that bridge so that we are looking at it from their perspective. When you look at it that a horse may not want to drink out of a green bucket because its favorite color is red. And that actually happened with my horse Shiloh. They took his red bucket out and put in a green bucket and he wouldn't drink out of it, and put in a blue bucket and he wouldn't drink out of it, and a black bucket and he wouldn't drink out of it. And I asked him, he said, I want my red bucket back. So I went to the store and I got him a red bucket. I put his name on it and I told the barn manager, I said, this needs to stay. It's his bucket. So the barn manager is a gruff old guy and he said, yeah, whatever. And he put the second bucket up there, you know, next to Shiloh's red bucket. And Shiloh never drank out of the second bucket. He always drank out of his red bucket. So it wasn't a behavior issue. He liked his red bucket. Where was his red bucket? Animal communication can also help prepare the animal and their family in the hospice, death, and dying process. And this is an area that is very dear to me when it comes to animal communication, because it's so hard. It is so hard for us humans to be left behind when the animals cross over. So in midwifing, so to speak, in connecting with the animal and midwifing what's going on with the death process, what they need. Is it time to go? Is it not time to go? That is just really, to me, a very profound way that animal communication can make a difference. I've had clients before and they've called me, they're in tears. And, you know, it's time to put down my cat. He just all of a sudden just started doing this. Or it's time to put down my dog. Just all of a sudden they started doing this, and I connect with the animal. And this is a quote from a cat, literally a quote from the cat. And the cat was going, what the hell? It's not time for me to go yet. What the hell? I just need to go to the vet. And what it was that the person was not familiar enough with cats, and this was a male cat. And when male cats have problems going, you know, to the bathroom, when they're like trying and nothing's happening, when they're going in odd places, if there's blood in the urine, anything like that. With a male cat, that's, you know, red flag, get them to the vet now. Do not pass go, do not collect $200. And this person wasn't aware of that. So she was assuming it was time to put him down. I'm going, oh no, get him to the vet. If you have to get him to the emergency vet now, do that. And then call me tomorrow and let's talk some more. And she did, and she goes, Janet, that's just all it was. So connecting with the animals to see when they're ready to go, if they're ready to go, that is a big thing, and how they want to go. With my cat and my dog that I put down a couple of years ago, with both of them, they passed within 2 months of each other, and it was a very different process. And for me, being able to tune into them to see what they wanted individually, it helped them with their process, and it helped me knowing that I did what I could for them. And then the other thing is, this is the natural way that animals communicate. They don't have words, you know. Yeah, they use their senses, but because they are in the present, they're not distracted by what's going on in the future. They're not distracted by what's going on in the past, all the memories and everything. They're there. They're, if you want, intuition is not the correct word. And to me, psychic is not a good word to use. But whatever that sense is, whatever you want to call it, that is their natural way of connecting. And they're really happy that we're getting on the bandwagon. So my most asked question is, can anyone communicate with the animals? And the answer is, drum roll, come on, there you go, computer. The answer is yes. As I said earlier, everyone has the ability to connect with the animals. Whether you want to do it or not, that is a different story. You do not have to be psychic, and that is a soapbox for me. When people say, oh, you're the pet psychic, it's no, I'm not. I talk to animals. Because to me, psychic, when we use words like that, it divides what is a very natural ability for all of us humans to do. And it puts animal communication, to me, when you use the words like psychic or special gifts, it puts it in a category over here by itself, denying it to the rest of the people. And that's just not my cup of tea. To me, everybody can communicate, and that's been my experience, that people I've worked with, they can communicate to whatever level they want to. All we need really is, and anybody who is on this call live or is listening to it later, or who has followed me or is following me on social media, I'm preaching to the choir, I know. But all we need is a willingness to move out of our human lenses, our human perspective, and look at it from the snake's point of view. Look at life from the butterfly's point of view. Look at life from the deer's point of view, just to see what's going on. And sometimes not even connecting with them intuitively, but just literally getting at their level. So if you've got a cat that's jumped up to the highest shelf of the bookcase, okay, look at it from their perspective. What's it like to be up there? What's it like to have a tail to balance you when you're getting ready to jump? What's it like to have claws? What's it like to be able to jump higher? And in using your imagination, and I do not think using your imagination is a bad way to start at all. As a matter of fact, I think intuition, particularly at the beginning, comes through what we term as imagination, because that is the door that is the most open to most of us to start to receive the messages from the animals. So I don't think it's using your imagination. I think you are, when you are looking at that cat that's up there on the bookshelf, you're saying, what's it like from your perspective? And you are learning to experience what that cat is experiencing. To me, that's communication. I'm going to start off with what animal communication is not. And this first one here probably sounds kind of silly to say it's not magic, but it's not magic. There's homework involved. When I adopted my dog Teddy, the one you saw at the very beginning there, and who got me into animal communication, the animal communicator left me with this bucket list of things that I had to do, which was moving litter pans, which was putting the litter pans in different places, using a different kind of litter, which was cleaning, and I thought I had cleaned, and then she brought in the black light, and I'm going, oh geez, this is so embarrassing, and cleaning. So it was not a matter of me calling and saying, I want to set up a 30-minute appointment. Here's what's going on. Would you fix it for me, please? No, there's homework involved. And also, and I'm very, very, very emphatic about this with the clients that I work with, the main connection, the main relationship is between you and the animal. You and the animal have invited me in to work with you, to help you, to open up those lines of communication. But the main gig is between the two of you. I am just there as support. So I don't have a magic wand, and if I did, I wouldn't use it. Animal communication does not take the place of medical diagnosis, prescription, or treatment. I will have people call me, particularly people who just, run across my name and they want to know what's going on. And they're thinking that the animal communicator is the easy fix, is the magical fix, so they don't need to spend maybe thousands of dollars to take their dog to the vet. And their jaws just drop when I say, have you taken your animal to the vet yet? Well, no, I thought you could fix it. Well, take your animal to the vet, because we all know what it's like when we're not feeling good, what it's like to talk, particularly to a stranger. So take the animal to the vet. Let's see what's going on. Rule out anything medically that's happening, and then let's set up a time to talk. Animal communication is not a replacement for training. If you have an aggressive dog, then work with a trainer who is specialized in that area. The three of these work together. The animal communication, the training, and the vet or the medical professional that you're using, they all work together. But animal communication does not take the place of either the vet or the trainer. Animal communication is, as I said earlier, it's a natural way to communicate with the animals. We're meeting them on their territory, so to speak, instead of expecting them to understand what we're saying and to conform to our rules of the household, so to speak. We're actually checking with them as a species to see how things are from their perspective. And yes, I understand that when we are living in family style with animals, there are rules. And sometimes it is necessary to pull that I'm the human card, okay? But there's so much more that goes on before we pull that human card and say it needs to be done this way. So much more in understanding what's going on. Animal communication is connecting to and developing a relationship using your intuition. So it's not using what's in front of you, what's in the physical, it's what's not in the physical that you're using as a tool to communicate with the animal. And through using animal communication, we learn to actively listen. We practice those actively listening skills, and there can be resolutions of problems, and there can be win-win situations for everyone, or solutions for everyone. Now, granted, as I said earlier, the win-win is not always what the human wants it to be, but it's what the animal wants, and it's how the human can support the animal in the decision they have made. So that, to me, is what animal communication is. Do you have any questions thus far? No? Okay. So how animal communication works, this has changed since I first started practicing, learning about animal communication. I started off that you go into the quiet place and, you settle yourself down. And this is actually the way I teach it to beginners. This is what you do. And then you purposefully connect with the animal, and you're using your intuition, and you're in a different, your monkey mind is gone. You're in a deeper brainwave, so to speak. So that's technically what animal communication is and how it works. But I swear the more I practice it, and maybe it's the older I get, I don't know. But to me, it's that heart-to-heart connection. It's that willingness to be there with that animal, no matter what happens. To me, that's animal communication. Technically, the information is sent through our senses via our intuition. And people ask me, well, if it's going through my intuition, how do I know I've got the right animal? How do I know that it's, got the right animal, I'm getting the right information, and all of that? As you become more attuned and more practiced at using your intuition, it's also going to tell you if you have the right animal or not. Because the information that comes through, it's like it's got a time stamp on it, or an email address on it. That's actually a better term. And this information came from Max, my dog. And I know it came from Max, my dog, because I can feel Max's energy or his email address, if you want to call it that, on that information. And then when you don't get that, the correct email address, everything goes totally wrong, And usually the human is there to tell you, that's not my animal. I don't know what you're talking about. But if you keep in mind, and if you trust Trust is a big thing in animal communication, that the information has an energetic essence to it, a timestamp, so to speak, that is specific only to that animal, not to the species, to that particular animal, then you're on your way to communicating with the animals. And the other thing to keep in mind is the man-made barriers of time and space don't exist. They do not exist. And that can throw people for a loop. It's thrown me for a loop before. But it's also what enables me to connect with an animal that's down the block, on the other side of the state, on the other side of the country, on the other side of the world. And a perfect example of this is years ago, Shiloh was still alive. And I would go out during the summertime, and probably, I don't know, 6, 7 o'clock, something like that in the summertime, because evenings are long in Minneapolis in the summer. And I'd go out there and we just have this great time, and then I'd come home, you know, and do what I needed to, and then I'd get ready to go to bed, and I'm a late night person, and so I'd do some computer stuff and read and yada, yada, yada. And then the last thing I would do would be that I would shut off my computer. So I didn't think anything about it. I go out to see Shiloh, and he goes, you know, I really love that the last thing you say to me each night is, good night, buddy, I'll see you tomorrow. I'm going, what the heck are you talking about? I did not say that when I left the barn. I would give him hugs. I would love him up. I would give him treats. I might say, see you later. But I never said, good night, buddy, I'll see you tomorrow. Never said that when I left the barn. So he tells me that, and I'm thinking, okay, I had bad chicken, or he's just pulling my leg, and I should have known better to think that. But, you know, when you go down that rabbit hole of rationalization, there are things there that, you know, can kind of get to you. And so it was literally, and this is not an exaggeration, I'm going to call it a good 4 to 6 weeks before I realized that Shiloh was indeed the last thing I saw at night, because he was the picture on my desktop. I would get ready to turn off the computer. Before I did that, good night, buddy, I'll see you tomorrow. I turn off the computer, shut it down, go to bed. And it was just incredible how Shiloh knew that. I hope you all get a chance to meet him. He's one incredible animal. And if you ever have a big red horse in your kitchen, an angel horse with one eye, that's most probably Shiloh. He won't come unless he's invited. He's very particular about that. But if you ever see Shiloh, I'd like to meet you. Don't be surprised. Just a reminder to keep taking notes so you can see what happens at the end. And now we're going to start practice. Are you ready for practice? I love this part. So when I first started doing animal communication, this was the method that I was taught. And I now call it create a circle of quiet. Because what we're doing when we're communicating is we are actually changing the level of the brain waves that we are participating from, that we are acting out of. So we're leaving that monkey mind behind, and we're going deeper. And I can never remember which one is deeper, but anyway, we go to the second level. And so when we are creating a circle of quiet, I'm going to invite you to do this now, is to go to a place where you won't be disturbed. Okay, and that means physically, if you have to shut the door so you're not disturbed, if you have to put a timeout sign on the door, you know, so the family doesn't come in, if you have to put the cats in another room so you're not disturbed, if you go outside in nature so you're not disturbed, go to a physical, geographical place where it's quiet and you can trust that you will not be disturbed for, at the beginning, I would say 10 minutes or so. Quiet your body. A lot of people do that with meditation. If you are not familiar with meditation, one of the things that, because when I hear the word meditation, I get the deer in the headlights. It's like, I can't meditate. And then of course, because I think I can't meditate, then of course I get more in my monkey mind and then more in my monkey mind. So the word meditation does not work for me. But what does work for me is to focus on my breathing. I can do that. And an exercise that I use is that I will picture, I'll sit so that my feet are on the floor, on the ground, and I'm very comfortable. And I will picture that as I inhale, I'm drawing in the strength, the energy from Mother Earth through my left foot on the inhale. It goes up my body, the left side. And then up here at the top, I hold my breath for 3 counts, and that's where the energy is doing its work that I've inhaled from Mother Earth. And then as I exhale it down my right side. And it goes out my foot into Mother Earth so that she can take that energy and she can recycle it and clear it up. And I am cleansed through the process. So the way I do that is inhale through the left foot, inhale, 2, 3, hold, 2, 3, exhale, 2, 3. And I will do a series of that. 3 does not have to be the magic number. Whatever number you feel comfortable doing that. If you feel comfortable breathing to the count of 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever it is. Just so that it's steady, it's got that steady beat, and you can keep that flow going. This will also help you quiet your mind. If you find that you've got that beloved monkey mind that we all, well, at least I have so much. If you find that you're still experiencing monkey mind, even as you quiet your body and with the breathing, what I invite you to do then is to picture a wastebasket next to you. Maybe there's a physical one, maybe it's an imaginary one. Anyway, there's a wastebasket next to you. And when that monkey mind thought goes through your mind, just take it, put it in the wastebasket. Another monkey mind thought goes through your mind, take it, put it in the wastebasket, do some more breathing. Okay? And then even when you're communicating with the animals, if there's a monkey mind thought that goes through your mind, take it, put it in that wastebasket. Usually what happens is that that really helps to calm the mind down. Because the great thing about using this imaginary wastebasket, and particularly at the beginning, I had to hang on to this, was that, okay, I've taken that thought out of my mind, I've put it in the wastebasket. If I want that thought back, I just have to get it from the wastebasket, put it back in my brain before I dump everything else out of the wastebasket. That has never happened that I wanted to keep one of those thoughts. At the end, when I'm done communicating with the animal, I've taken that imaginary wastebasket or the real wastebasket with the imaginary thoughts in it, and I've just thrown it out, cleaned it up, taken it to the garbage, whatever, so that those thoughts are gone. And that is a way that really helps me to picture that wastebasket next to me. Always, 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 always ask permission to speak to the animal. Don't just assume because you're the human and it's a good time for you that it's a good time for them or they even want to talk to you. Particularly if you are at the point where you are connecting with an animal that's not your own, a neighbor's animal, for instance, or a friend's animal who's never met you before. Neighbor's animal's probably seen you and is familiar with you. Don't assume that they want to talk to you, okay? So the words that I find that could get us lots of mileage in this is please, may I, and thank you. Please, may I talk to you? Is this a good time to talk to you? And if it is, when you're done, thank them for it. Those words that we learned as little kindergartner kids, they can get a lot of mileage, particularly when it comes with the animals, because just our being willing to say, is this a good time, shows that we are in relationship with, and it's not power over. So when you are doing this, assuming that the animal has given you permission to connect with them, and they're saying it's okay, go ahead and have a conversation, whatever questions you had, okay? And then listen to any hunches that you get, anything, colors, any ideas, any words, any pictures that come to you. Listen to that. Now, if by chance the animal says no, respect that. That is not anything against you. It is not a shaming thing. It is not a guilting thing. The animal doesn't want to talk. As humans, there are times we don't want to talk. So if you ask the animal's permission and they say no, then okay, just go ahead and say, okay, is it okay if I sit with you for a while? And again, if they say yes, go for it and sit with them, not talking. And trying not to think, using that exercise to get that monkey mind of why isn't the animal talking to me right now, get that out of your mind, and just set in presence, be in presence with the animal. If the animal says, maybe, let me think about it, honor that. So in animal communication, for me, the animal always takes the lead, and I respond to what their lead is. I think that's the easiest way to put it. When you are done talking or being in the presence of the animal, thank them. Remember to always thank them. That, again, it shows that we're striving to be in right relationship with them. And also it sets up a boundary of, okay, the conversation is done now. And when you create your circle of quiet, when you go through these steps, it does set up a boundary that now I'm connecting to the animal. Now this is happening. Now this is happening. So that we're kind of like in a bubble, so to speak, if you want to call that, not distracted by what's going on elsewhere. I highly recommend starting with this. If you're new to animal communication, to go ahead and start with this and see how it works for you. So the thing about when you have created a circle of quiet, I know for me when I started, it was like, gosh darn it, I was really good. I was able to be quiet for 2 minutes, which is basically a good thing for me. And I was able not to have monkey mind for the whole 3 minutes that I was in connection with that animal. So I thought that was the big thing, that I was stilling myself. Well, yeah, that's true. It is true. But you've stilled yourself. You've brought yourself from one dimension or one realm of being to another realm of being, so to speak. You've gone from your monkey mind to that deeper brain level so that you can connect. You've connected with an animal. Okay, you've made a connection. You've made a relationship with a non-human being. Okay, how cool is that? How awe-inspiring is that? And you've had a conversation with an animal. And when I say awe-inspiring, it is not just from the human's perspective, but from the animal's perspective. Okay, they may not use that word awe-inspiring, but the fact that as a human, we've gone out of our way to connect with them at the level of where they are, in the way that they naturally connect, that is awe-inspiring. So kudos to everybody who does that. Okay, are you ready to do up some practice time with your animal? Okay, so what we're going to do, so I'm going to give you time to do this, and I'm going to ask that when you're done, you look up, okay? And first of all, create your own circle of quiet. If you don't have questions ready, you can ask them how they're feeling, how they're doing, what do you think of, whatever. I wouldn't use like, what do you think of the world situation? Or, what's the big answer, to the way we live in the world. I wouldn't ask any big in-depth questions like that, but, what do you think of the red bucket that you're drinking your water out of, Shiloh? What do you think of the food you're eating? Can you tell me what it's like from your perspective to eat whatever food it is? What is that like? What does it taste like? What do you need from me? How can I help you? And then you could say, when such and such an experience happens, how do you feel about it? The thing to keep in mind is you're going to ask open-ended questions. The only time to ask a yes or no question that I can think of off the top of my head is at the very beginning. Is it okay if we connect now? And then whatever response they give, go with that response. If they give a yes, then that's when you go with the open-ended questions. So the other thing is to trust what you get from the animal. I don't care if you just think that, I just cannot understand why this dolphin is telling me that he wants to swing on a trapeze. I don't get it. I can't understand that. I must be crazy. No, you're not. You're getting information from a non-human being that you're not skilled yet at translating. So whatever that animal tells you, accept at that moment in time that it's the truth, and just go with the flow. Okay, ready to go? All right, let's go ahead. And unless you look up at me beforehand, let's go for about 4 minutes, okay? So there's going to be silence on the recording. It hasn't stopped. It's still recording. There's just silence as people are practicing to communicate with their animals. And I'll see you in a little bit. And let's have you start to come back. Gradually open your eyes. Thank the animal. And feel yourself in the room. Feel what it's like to have your feet on the floor. Smell the smells that are in your room, that are particular to that room. Feel what it's like to move your body. Feel the blood flowing through it. And what was that like? Care to share?
Sure. It was like a real mix of things, I guess, from thoughts to words, and then I would jump in and second guess, thinking, oh, I'm making this up. And I had a point of having just a feeling of being ramped up, just a lot of energy.
Yep.
Yeah. And a picture of a person that's there with my dog, but not the person I would have thought.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
Sure.
As you were feeling ramped up, was it possible to go back to the breathing so that you could get ramped down?
Yeah, that was very helpful whenever I would do that. Go back to the breathing. I think I started to worry more about, well, what does this mean, and start analyzing it instead of relaxing.
Excuse me. Congratulations, you're human. Okay? We humans run everything through our brain. We're just wired to do that,
Yeah.
And so when you find that wiring, it's going through your brain. Well, first of all, let me backtrack a little bit. When I connect with the animals, I actually kind of split myself in half. I've never found a good word for this, but there's a part of me who is 100% in connection with the animal and their human, or the animal if it's in the wild, or the angel animal, okay? 100% of me is connected with them. The other 100% of me is like a school teacher that's looking over my shoulder and observing what I'm doing. Okay, I'm sure there's got to be a great name for this. I just wish I knew what it was. So as I'm talking to the animal and something like that, I'm noticing, okay, I'm getting ramped up here. And then the school teacher, Janet, you're getting ramped up. Time to breathe, to relax, so that you've got this dual conversation going on, so to speak. As a matter of fact, when I first learned how to do this, what I would do was I would literally take a piece of paper, draw the line smack down the middle. Here's the school teacher. Here's the conversation I had with the animal. Here's how the animal responded. Here's how the school teacher responded. And it helped me to write it down, and not only what the school teacher said, but what I was feeling. What the school teacher said I was feeling, or what I observed myself feeling. When I started feeling myself ramped up, I noticed I couldn't breathe. I noticed that I was starting to levitate in the chair. I noticed that the animal wasn't talking to me as much, or whatever. So when you make it like that, and you've got something, because again, we're so good at being human, and you've got something concrete that you can see in front of you that helps you for the next time that you're connecting. It's like, oh yeah, the school teacher said that when I get ramped up like that, to remember to breathe. Right now, as you're learning to do this might sound really silly, because I know the goal is to connect with the animals, and it is the goal to connect with the animals, but the goal is also, and it actually might be the primary goal, to be aware of how we're connecting with the animals. Once we get our ducks in a row, connecting with the animals is usually easy peasy. And then what you were saying about not being able to trust, this has really helped me. This has been a lifeline for me, is when I go, and I still at times will go into that, oh my God, I can't believe that this is really happening. Did that animal really say that? Am I making it up? And when I go into that rabbit hole, which can be a very, richly filled and deep rabbit hole for me personally. What really helps me is that why at this particular time, in this particular place, did this particular animal tell me that information in that particular way? With all the other thoughts, I could have been thinking about the laundry, I could have been thinking about taking Max out, I could be thinking about reminding Raven that he's not supposed to be up on the kitchen counter, you know, maybe one day that will get across to him, I don't know. But when I'm in communication with the animal, that my lifesaver is at this particular time, why did this thought come to me? Why did this image come to me? Why did this come to me? And then I trust that whatever it was came at that time, came because it needed to. As you get more experienced with this and you start discerning more, yeah, you're going to see where, you know, an animal might be pulling your leg or something like that. But at the very beginning, trust that what you get is what needed to be said at that particular time. Particularly for beginners, I've never witnessed an example where the animal just went and go, I'm just going to like mess around with your mind, lady, and let me tell you a few things here. I've never experienced that. And this could be bias on my part, but I don't think the animals would do that at the beginning as they get to know you. Yes, they might, you know, because it's a relationship. You joke around in a relationship. But at the beginning, when you're learning and they are trying to help you, they are here as your teacher, I don't think they would go down that route. So those notes, whoopsie, there you go. Send me a picture of them. You know, either take a snapshot or is that the proper term to use in this technology? Snapshot? Take a screenshot, attach as a PDF or whatever, and send them to me. And as a thank you for being on the call tonight, I will answer one question about your animal. And I'll be sending you this information because tomorrow you'll get an email from me with a link to this call and the information about what you need to send me for your question, and also about Teddy's memorial fundraiser. So you don't have to remember and write this stuff down, but I will need name, age. And let's just go with the live animals. Let's not do angel animals this time. So I'll be sending all of that tomorrow. And then I hope you've enjoyed this call and you're beginning to realize how much you're already communicating with animals. Because you're not going to be on this call if you're not already doing it. You're not probably, unless you're like a skeptic, a king or queen of skeptics, you're probably not going to connect with me. If you don't already believe that you're in some way, shape, or form connecting with animals, or that it's possible to connect with animals. So I hope you realize how much you're already doing it. We call it a hunch, we call it a gut feeling, we call it a coincidence. It's communication. Start calling it communication, please. And then let's stay connected through the workshops. What I will also be sending you tomorrow is I am looking at moving my workshops from the Learn It Live platform to moving them on my site. And I'm looking for beta testers. So I'll send you that information tomorrow. If you're interested in being a beta tester for the new workshop platform, just let me know. And I'll send you information on that. My newsletter, you can sign up at janetroper.com. That's my website. You go there and you can just find all kinds of wonderful things. Go to the blog and just start searching. There is I've got to organize it better. But if you start searching, there's a ton of information there about communicating with animals. And then connect with me on Facebook or Janet Roper, or my business page, which is Talk to the Animals with Talk number 2. And the workshops be coming up. You can see what's already been going on at Learn It Live. I'll have a link for that tomorrow. And you can host your own communication class. If you are a hostess, you get it for free. I'll have information for you on that tomorrow. And any questions? Do you have a question?
Oh, I can't probably have too many, but nothing specific is coming up. It seems like, I do believe that I have gotten, even before I had my dog, that he called me from the shelter and said it was time and he was ready. Yeah. And that was the first really, really strong knowledge that I could do that, or that was happening.
And was it a knowing beyond knowing? Like knowing better than you know your own name?
Yeah, it was just this really strong, I had been looking for another dog, and it was just really strong feeling that I needed to go now. I needed to go this weekend.
Yep.
That was like 10, 11 years ago. And it was like, well, okay then.
Yeah.
And there he was.
Yeah. Because sometimes it's easier to just break down and do it instead of hearing that nagging voice or however that was coming to you. How did it come to you? Do you remember how you experienced that?
It was like this urgency. It was a feeling.
Okay.
It was a feeling that it's just that I don't know why, but I need to go look today.
Okay. Hang on to that. Okay. And remember that as like a goalpost, because now I'm not connected to you or to anybody right now. This is just me talking. But my guess is that that is going to be the way the animals will start communicating with you, because you're already familiar with that. You're already comfortable with that. And they're going, there's that line of communication that's already open. Let's just go in that door. So when you get that feeling, start paying attention to that urgency of, I need to do this now. And then do it now. as now as you can. I get that.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here tonight, and yay you for wanting to connect with the animals. I love it.
Well, thank you.
You're quite welcome. It was a pleasure meeting you here online. Just really nice to be able to put a face and a voice to the email. So
yes, good. I agree.
Okay. I will send information out tomorrow, and I'll talk to you later. Take good care.
Okay. I'll send you a screenshot. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.